Roll call.
Mr. Armando.
Present.
Mr. Duffy. Present. Mr. Buick.
Present.
Mr. Vito.
Present.
Mr. Quinn.
Present.
Mr. Sanchez. Mrs. Scapino. Mr. C.
Present.
Mrs. Onion.
Present. Please rise for the
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
residents request,
I know you're jumping.
sorry.
Not that I'll complain.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been sent to all the members of the Board of Education and to the Bergen record in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, 1970.
We have, Madam President, we have two presentations tonight. The first one will be done by our supervisors, Christine Steiner and Robert Lehman, on the PARC test results. I just want to make a couple opening comments regarding that so we all know what the process is. First of all, I compliment both supervisors on putting this all together, and the work has just begun. No one should react to this either way. These scores mean absolutely nothing to me as superintendent. It's the first year. And you really need at least 3 years of test scores to get an idea of where the real issues are, and there will be, to address and to improve the scores. And what compounds the problem is we got the test scores in December. So even now breaking them down, it's now January, so what you would do on the test, you still can pick up some key things by looking at some of the scores. But even if when we do that and we go talk to the teachers, they would most likely start to deal with this in February, and the next PARC test is April. So in essence, by getting the scores so late, there really is nothing that can be done to affect the second year of the scores. Now the state has said that we will get the results of the second year of the scores by June 30th. If they hold to that, that would be wonderful, because then we would have 2 years of the scores, and over the summer the supervisors can look at it, and then we can meet with the teachers in September and say, hey, in math, here's an area we have to spend more time on, or in language arts, here's an area. So the test that the kids are going to take this year has no impact. We can't make any changes. So where you will see changes taking place and drilling in it with the PARC would be in the test results of the spring of 2017. That's assuming that the politicians don't interfere again. You're going to have an election for a governor in 2017, and when new governor comes in, they might say, we don't like PARC anymore. And then they could change and go to another test. Many states that, I think out of the 21 states that have gone to PARC, 16 have already gotten out and gone to something else. And I remember when I was the superintendent in Norwood last year, we had the 4th grade parents in the fall come, and I felt like Custer, that more and more of them came over the hill in complaining about math. And we went on for an hour and a half of this emotional tirade. And I finally said to him, you want really bad news? We're going to make all these changes, and then the politicians can change the test. So you got this new math. And that was the problem up in Norwood. The parents did their homework, I guess, and they couldn't understand the math. I can't understand the math. And this math that they put in is absolutely beyond me. And my daughter, who's a lawyer, and a very good one, spoke to me at a family party, said, Dad, what is this new math? I just started laughing. I said, why? So Luke came home and he said, how do I do this? And Kevin and I looked at it. We just said, hey, pal, go see your teacher. I don't have any idea. And I said, that's a great answer as a parent. And the parents get very vested, and they should, but this new math is crazy. I don't understand it. But the state could change everything in 2 years or 3 years. Hopefully, we'll stay on some course. So what I'm trying to say tonight, listen, the board members all have hard copies. We will put this whole thing on the website. so that any parent can look at it, take it for what it's worth. We did well in some areas, we didn't do well in others. As far as I'm concerned, neither side matters because it's only the first year. So really, tonight's an information presentation. Chris, Rob, please.
So on behalf of myself, Rob, Supervisor of Math and Science here in Saddlebrook, Supervisor of Language Arts and Social Studies, we thank you for your attention here and understanding what's going on with these park scores. Mr. Ammerman gave us a nice background there to get started and look at the actual scores we received recently from last year's administration. So a little background, I guess, on the reminder on our situation we have in New Jersey. In 2015, New Jersey adopted the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers, PARC, to replace the HSPA test and the NJASC tests in the elementary school and high school, respectively. Students took PARC English in grades 3 through 11, and all students also took math in grades 3 through 8. And then in high school, they were subject specific, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. The PARC performance levels is going to be the first thing people recognize is different from the NJASC and HSPA. So as things are brought forward as far as scores are concerned, these are the new things that you will see, and we'll talk about some other indicators that we'll see as well as far as scores are concerned. The old way of doing it was students got scored and they were either partially proficient, or advanced proficient. 3 categories. They split that up into 5 now. So we have not yet meeting grade level expectations, partially meeting grade level expectations, approaching grade level expectations, meeting grade level expectations, and exceeding grade level expectations. The old proficiency starts at level 4. So level 4 would be considered proficient, level 5 would be considered advanced proficient. Anything less would be partially proficient. The breakdown from level 1 to 3 gives you a clearer picture of how close students are to the proficiency level. So the score report is going to look different because the data and the information is different. This is a lot of what New Jersey and PARC has been touting for parents and educators alike. This is a copy somewhat of what the score report is going to look like. There's very lots of colors, but it also has more information in there. The website understandthescore.org is a resource that the state is pushing. We're going to push as well for people to go to so they can understand the score reports that they receive. All schools send out individualized score reports to students' homes. That's probably within the last couple of weeks before break, I believe. And the resources on this website will help explain all of the things that are on the actual score report. This is going to be on the website, so this will be available. Also, there's an informational part on the website, on our school website that's going to be updated with all the changes. We'll also have this information. I'm going to turn it over to Christine for.
So we talked about language arts. We have scores being reported in several different categories. Some are similar and familiar from NJASC, and some are structured differently. But we'll break them down. We are still getting information both in the reading and writing realm. But under writing, we're thinking about things in terms of literary text, informational text, and then the vocabulary associated with those texts. And for writing, it's a matter of expression, which is the ability to construct a written passage, and then convention, which is more your grammar, your capitalization, the mechanics of writing. The score levels that Rob talked about are going to come in handy as we start taking a look at some data. This is a lot of numbers. So let's take a quick look. What we have all the way at the end of the chart are the New Jersey levels of 4 or above. So that's net proficiency or exceeded expectations. our district total for, again, either meeting expectations or exceeding expectations. So we see that third grade in the district, 58% of our students either met or exceeded proficiency as compared to 44% of students in grade 3 across the state. And we can continue our way down. The entire chart gives the breakdown of all the way from level 1, which is not meeting expectations, all the way up to level 5, which is exceeding. We really want to see fewer students who are over in levels 1 and 2. So the smaller our percentages over there, the better we're doing. And the higher the percentages in levels 4 and 5, the stronger performance that we have. As a whole across the district, you can see that the percentage of students who attain level 5, which is exceeding expectations, is relatively low. We have over in our elementary grades, 3 through 6, all the way on the other side of the spectrum at level 1, not meeting expectations, we have very low percentages, which is what we would want to see. And then when we shift into middle school and high school, we start to see those percentages increasing. And as a trend, what we see as we start to look at some of the cluster scores is that our elementary students performed very well compared to our middle school and high school students. And that carries both reading and writing all the way across. But before we get into clusters, because we have 3 elementary schools, we also want to take a look at comparison and see what we're hoping for is consistency in scores across the 3 elementary schools. We're using the same curriculum, we're using the same instructional methods, we're using the same programs, so hopefully we would get the same results. However, we have to factor in that we're talking about different students. So even though we have that consistency that we're working towards, we don't always necessarily get the same results. When you take a look, going down the column is the same grade level across the schools. And you can see in 3rd grade, Franklin and Smith performed very similarly to one another, and we had strong performance at Law. That remains true in 4th grade, with Long having stronger performance. Smith is very close, and we had Franklin at 47%. When we look at 5th grade, the 3 grade levels of the 3 grades across buildings are fairly consistent in terms of their performance. You will see in our slides that we also have brought in information in terms of the PARCC Consortium. That's the 11 states plus the District of Columbia who gave the assessment last year. So really in terms of more like comparisons would be a state comparison. Students across New Jersey who took this test. The PARCC Consortium ranges from New Jersey to Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Louisiana, all across the state with different demographics, different school structures. So a fairer comparison really is how we perform across the state. In looking at the data, for the most part, New Jersey state percentages were higher than the PARCC Consortium. So making a comparison between us and the state raises the bar and of what we're hoping to achieve as opposed to comparing us to the PARCC Consortium. The next several slides are grade level data. So we have several different colors here. The blue bars all the way to the left, the dark blue represents Franklin scores, the red is Long, the green is for Smith, purple is the district as a whole, the blue, light blue is the state, and orange is the PARCC Consortium. When you look at 3rd and 4th grade, what you see across, with the exception of, what you see across the board is when you look at our purple district averages, we have either met or exceeded the state performance, which is certainly something we want to see. When I start looking and breaking down further, I notice that our students perform stronger with informational text than they did with literary text, which at first glance is somewhat surprising because traditionally elementary schools have been focused on fiction text. It's something that's very familiar, they've been exposed to narrative, you would assume that that would translate onto their performance on the test. However, the way that the vast majority of the first round of testing for PARCC was the informational text had a multimedia approach where students were looking at pictures, were watching video clips, as well as reading text. And my assumption is that that approach actually drew out more of a response from students. And that's why we have a strong performance in informational text. That is a supposition. I don't have anything to back that up other than just what I know of what our students have done and how they performed. Another trend that I see is that our performance on the writing tasks is stronger than our reading tasks. That holds true all the way through the elementary grades, which I would attribute to the work that we've been doing in Writer's Workshop in the last 7 years and the focus that we've had on that construction. We were noticing that trend on NJS. Not that we can make a comparison between NJS and PARCC. They're completely different tests, but we're seeing improvement in students' writing abilities on all forms of assessments, and I'm seeing that this is holding true for us at this point on PARCC. When we shift to 5th and 6th grade, we again have stronger performance than the PARCC Consortium and the state.
What is exactly conventions?
Conventions are going to be your grammar, your mechanics, so capitalization, punctuation, the logistics of writing. So it's not what you've written, it's following the rules of writing. So grades 5 and 6, we have again better performance than PARCC or the state. 5th grade is slightly above, but 6th grade we had significantly stronger performance across the board. Both Franklin and Long, when we look at some of their scores, expression stands out to me, where they are significantly outperformed the state. So that's positive to see. As I mentioned, we shift into the middle school, high school, and the performance is quite strong, so we saw in the elementary grades because of going on buildings and three colors, and now we want to do red and green. With red being the state, blue being our district, so our middle school. And in 7th grade, what we see is that our students did not perform as well as the state or the PARCC Consortium. And we had our writing scores being weaker than our reading scores. When we shift to 8th grade, we see a drop off in the 7th grade performance, where we underperformed the state and the PARCC Consortium. When we go into the high school, we have our 9th grade scores. Again, in reading, we see that we have performed below the consortium and the state. However, in writing, we have performed stronger than. 10th grade, we see a significant drop-off in performance, and both in reading and writing, our students have underperformed our comparison groups. 11th grade, it looks impressive. We skyrocketed. When we make the comparisons, again, in reading, we have performed lower than state and PARCC, and our writing is either comparable to or just slightly below. So we have stronger writing scores than we do reading scores in 11th grade. For the most part, with the exception of a few grades, our writing scores were stronger then. And again, that has been a focus of the district over the last 7 years. So I'm hoping this is an indication of that work that we've done.
Okay, so for math, obviously we don't have all that writing and reading. We have a little bit of a difference in our score reports. There are 4 main topics that get sub-scored in the math on the math test, and those would be the major content, supporting content, reasoning, and modeling. Major and supporting content is fairly straightforward. Those are your straightforward, can you do this math or can you not do this math? Major would be the major topics per grade, and supporting would be the smaller topics for each grade. Reasoning would be, and the reasoning and modeling questions would be more of the open-ended types of questions. You're looking for reasoning being, can a student answer a question and give their reasoning why they're answering that way. So the answer is this because of, and then backing up that. Modeling would be Johnny wants to decide if he wants to get a Netflix account or rent movies every month on his own. Which one is going to be a better deal? So building an equation and modeling the real world problem with algebraic text. That would be your modeling there. As far as the actual test is concerned, while 80% of the content on the test, 80% of the problems come from the first two, 60% of the score comes from those first two. So major and supporting content is going to be 8 out of every 10 questions, but 6 out of every 10 points. So there is no only answer the easy questions or the major and supporting ones, don't answer any of the open-ended ones. You're starting with only 60% of the points already. So there is no, everything's in one bag versus the other. It's fairly well spread out. And that's the breakdown as far as math is concerned. Now, here's the big data sheet for math. So there are a lot of numbers here. So it's math, right? Again, we have the same setup. So Steve gave you all the background there, so I can actually go a little bit quicker through this. The New Jersey state level here, 4 or above, that's your proficient or above. And then the district performance for each grade. And then you'll notice at the high school we don't have the grades anymore because students in different grades will be taking different courses. So it's based on Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. But it's mostly 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. So the New Jersey percentages right here and the district percentages right here next to each other. You can see very similar things happening in math as we did in the language arts assessment. And that is in grades 3 through 5, 3 through 6. We have mostly performance above the state level, at or above the state level. And then once we get to 7th grade and on down, we have performance underneath the state level on average. Higher percentages here in the not yet meeting or partially, and lower percentages here for the lower grades in not yet meeting or partially meeting. And to be honest, as much as this is new data and you can't take too much from this, this makes sense in math terms because the way that math works is everything's scaffolded. So you learn a topic and then you build and then you build and then you build. So if your students are not performing well here, it's going to be a rare occurrence for them to perform better the next year if they have gaps of content knowledge, and so on and so forth. So it's like the snowball, the big snowball. So the one thing you will notice on all math score reports is under grade 8, you've got an asterisk, so I have to mention this. Grade 8 is the only grade that students are able to skip. And what I mean by that is there are students in every district that take Algebra 1 in 8th grade instead of regular 8th grade math. So they would not take the grade 8 part, they take the Algebra 1 part. You can see that our Algebra 1 numbers are larger than our 8th grade numbers. There's actually a pretty big difference in our 8th grade numbers, and that's why. Every student, especially in Saddlebrook, will take 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Not every 8th grade student takes the grade 8 test. That also explains statewide, but also in Saddlebrook, why the numbers jump so much from grade 7 to grade 8. You figure that your top students are taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade instead of regular grade 8 math. So all of those top students who would perform well on the test would actually take the test. So you don't get to see those numbers. Instead, you see a larger, what seems like a larger number. That actually does make sense. That is one of the things that makes sense about this data. Okay, now we also have a breakdown by school, and again, we will see very similar items, very similar things happening here as we did in language arts. We want, again, to see similar percentages for each grade level since we do have the same curriculum and the same materials for each school for grade level. So grade 3, we'll have Franklin, Long, and Smith, fairly close to one another actually. Smith and Franklin both performing a little bit better than Long did. In grade 4, we'll see a big drop here. Why? We don't really know. But there is one thing for sure, Saddlebrook does not have a ton of students in each of our grades. And one thing we know about numbers is when you have a small sample set, a couple of changes can make a big effect on the percentage. So if you figure 1,000 students, a couple of students here or there aren't going to make a big dent in the percentage. We're talking Saddlebrook percentages or Saddlebrook numbers of students. It's possible that a couple of small instances could actually make big changes for percentages. Do we really know? Not really. We have to check out trends, multiple years of data and all that to be able to really understand. But you can see that Long and Smith here were closer together. We had a big dip in Franklin, but the next year, where grade 5 students in Franklin performed better than Long and Smith students did. So is there a reason for that? We don't really know. We just know that this is the data that we receive for that. This is how our students performed on last year's test. In grade 6, we can see again the same, fairly good percentages here in Franklin for a level 4 above, and Long and Smith behind, but fairly close to one another. At the bottom, we have the Park Consortium and the state averages, and then the district averages. Again, the district performed better than the state in grade 3, much better, and in grade 5, only a little better. And definitely better than the Park Consortium, where the state's New Jersey has raised the money. So our averages are a little bit higher than all the other states. So here's the breakdown of major supporting content and then reasoning and modeling for each grade. We got the colors back. So what I would point you to, again, is the purple band, which is the district, versus the state, which is the light blue, and the park, which is the orange. And you'll notice probably what you're expecting to notice based on the percentage we saw before. If our students in grade 3 are performing better than the state, then the breakdown will probably be better than the state, and that's exactly what we see here. There are a few jumps from school to school, and again, we just saw the numbers from school to school that it jumped a little bit. So this makes up the score, so we're going to see the same jumps there. In grade 4, you'll notice, remember we saw that large Smith number in grade 4, and you can see Smith's bar pretty high up, but the district on an overall status higher than the state and Park Consortium in all subcategories. The weird thing about math is a lot of the testing strategy prior under NJASC and TESCO, HSPA, is to drill students with your major and supporting content. And the reasoning and modeling was a smaller part of the test. Here, they're closer together. But you do see that here we have students performing very well on content and pretty much the same on your reasoning and modeling. So we have our students performing mostly on even levels between those questions. Again, it jumps around a little bit, but on the most part, we see that across the board. So grades 5 and 6 now, we saw the numbers for grades 5 and 6, they were a little bit closer together, a dip here, a dip there. We see that in these bars as well. Again, the purple is going to be your district level. We can see our supporting content very high here, whereas our supporting content, major, reasoning, and modeling are all very close to the state average there. Overall, grades 3 through 6, we were pretty much on par with the state. Our middle school is where we started to see change. Again, similar to language arts numbers, where things change as we move into the older population. So, our middle school, high school performance compared with the state, about on par with major content, lower in supporting, lower in reasoning, and very much lower in modeling. This breakdown actually gives us a little bit better of an idea of what we can work on in years to come. If our modeling scores are lower, we need to work more with getting our students to read, understand, and be able to model whatever the math this helps us a little bit more than prior data. In grade 8, you can see we were low in all categories, and as the percentages showed before, the same is going to continue. The Algebra 1 and Geometry classes, both lower. You can see here we have a little bit of a higher percentage in Algebra 1 for each of these. And again, as I explained before, we get that influx of 8th grade students who are taking Algebra 1 because they're a little bit more advanced in math. So it makes sense here that our Algebra 1 scores might be a little bit higher than others. Those students do start to get added in there. Our geometry scores are low, as you saw before, and the same thing with Algebra 2 scores.
That's a tremendous amount of data. And that's just the compiled version of the data, not the pages and pages that we receive. So we've talked a little bit already this evening about how we have 1 year's worth of data and we don't have trends, but it's still information. And we certainly want to be analyzing that information and pulling through year 1 and seeing what we can get. So we certainly are looking at, as we have illustrated tonight, what our strengths and weaknesses were in terms of performance on that test. We will continue to take a look at that information. We also want to talk about how we use this data to talk to staff members and teachers, and what does this mean for our instruction. All important reflections for us to be having. It also leads us to the question of what resources and materials do we need to start addressing some of what we're seeing. That doesn't mean suddenly allocate tremendous amounts of money based off of 1 year's data, but it means let's start compiling a list of things that we think could help address what we're seeing. And we'll see off of this current year's results if we're noticing similar things. If so, then we probably have something that's actionable. One of the things that we were told when switching apart is the amount of data that we're going to receive is going to be unlike our previous assessments. Not to sound snarky, but I'm going to say I hope that's true. Because at this point, we have not received all of the data that we've been told we were going to get. We've received school level data, we've received grade level data, we've received student-specific data. We were also supposed to receive subgroup information, like we normally got in the past, where we would have been talking to you. Typically, here our one subgroup that we have that's large enough is special ed. So we'll be talking about our special ed scores versus our general ed population. We have not yet been given that information. So obviously, we can't talk about something we don't know at this point. We've also been told that we're going to get an item analysis, where literally question by question on the test, here's how your student performed, so that we can start really looking at, on a multiple choice, well, they got it wrong, but which choice did they choose? Because that often gives us insight into what that child is thinking. We can look at patterns across the class. We can look at our patterns across a grade level across the district. But we don't have that information yet. So these are conversations we're looking forward to having, and when we get the data that we're anticipating, we should be able to drill down to that level of specificity where we can look at a particular student on a particular test item and see what they've done and surmise what their thinking was, which gives us tremendous insight into instruction that should be taking place in the classroom based on the successes or misconceptions that a student had on the test.
So we've kind of been mentioning this throughout, but I'll just mention it again. We have 1 year of data, and it's a baseline. So this is a starting point for many districts and the state as well. So anything that came before, as far as NJAS is concerned, we can't compare to because the test doesn't compare. Additionally, we received data in December, and for us, it's still incomplete data. So how many things can we really do or expect to do before this year's test? Minimal. We don't even have the time to sit down and really look at in-depth numbers and then discuss it with faculty members. And then it changes. because the test is happening again in June. So realistically, we're looking at a time frame where we're going to be able to take this year's data, and then hopefully next year's data doesn't come in December, but next year's data is supposedly going to come before summer. So we'll be able to take 2 years of data, truly take a close look at both years, and then start to build for the next school year and then the next or that year's tests, which means the data we would get for that test, the third time that our students go through that, would come to us over the following summer. We're looking at basically 2 to 3 years out before being able to see anything where we could say, all right, we made a couple changes and things are working or not working. We won't even be able to tell after the new set of data. And we don't even know what half the data looks like.
But that doesn't mean we need to sit back and do nothing in the meantime and say, well, we'll just wait and see how this plays out. As you know, since, well, for as long as I've been here, we've talked about our action plan and things that we're trying to accomplish. The data that we receive does not change that plan in any way, shape, or form. It's a good plan, it's focused on student achievement, and so now it's carrying out the next steps of those plans. We talked already about analyzing the results. So we've worked with the data that we have so far, and we certainly want to embrace the new data that we get to see how it fits with what we've learned so far.
Right, and we are working on a number of things in district currently. Instructional practices. Christina's been working with the language arts teachers on the workshop model. We've already been seeing dividends paid, not just for testing, but through teachers' feedback and teachers coming in saying, listen, my students this year had the workshop model the previous year are stronger in writing and reading than I've ever had before. And those are the types of things that are worth even more than a couple numbers on a page. In addition, we're working on the push towards performance-based learning, so our students can be truly involved and engaged in materials and what they're doing and what they're learning. And these are proven as a proven practice. Both of these are proven practices to improve student achievement and scores, but really we're looking for our students to improve, and these are proven practices for them. In addition, we will continue to do our work in standards alignment, more so in math, especially at the high school level. The sequence and pace of our courses is very important, and we need to make sure that we are on pace with what the new Common Core standards, which is what Parker is based off of, are being addressed and hit in each of our classes. So that is continued. That we're continuing to look at that and make sure that that's happening in all of our classes at the high school. And we are also raising the level of expectation of our students and what they're going to be doing, not only in class but outside of class and learning and all that. So we're bringing that higher level of expectation in with all of this, and with all of the other changes we're doing. We're hoping that this action plan will truly take it. Curriculum development.
But we certainly, this past summer, looked at our elementary math and language arts curriculum and have revised, well, I say revised, but really we started from scratch. So we wrote a solid curriculum that I mentioned before. I kept using the word consistency. This is another step in that direction, where we're now all working off of the same document with the same expectations for students. We still have that flexibility within the classroom of I know my students and I might need to make adjustments to that curriculum to help them meet their needs, but for the most part, we're all working towards the same content roughly at the same time. We have in our plan, our long-range plan in terms of curriculum development, this summer to be focusing in on the upper sides of those equations. So we're doing 7 to 12 math and language arts this summer, as well as K to 12 social studies and 6 to 12 science. So that will help broaden that perspective on our consistency across all of our content areas, particularly those that will be tested.
That's it?
Is that enough?
Well, you, yes, it is. I'm going to a park. No, any questions from the board?
Not on the side or anything. But notice that there's a very noticeable drop in all of our scores as soon as you hit middle school, and then it goes down in both math and science. I believe it's a trend that we were seeing also as well in back in the NJS. That's good as well. There's some in the state, but ours seems to be greater. Do we have any idea why that is? If there's such a quick drop.
I wish there was a magic answer, particularly with this being a new test. It's hard to pinpoint. Much like we were even seeing at the elementary, where we might have had one of the schools in a grade level that was, performed significantly different. Like you said, if it's the same curriculum, the same materials, the same approach, why did that happen? It's hard to say. Some will make the argument that as our students got older, there was a feeling or a message sent that this test was not important, didn't count for anything, and therefore might not have put in as much effort as younger students. I don't know whether that holds true or not, because we can easily make that argument for schools across the state, and we still performed lower than the rest of the state. So it's certainly something that was alarming to us, and something that we want to keep our eye on as we get more years worth of data and see if there's something really particular going on. But at this point, it's really too soon for us to say in terms of that data.
If you were looking at three things there, and anyone in this room could look at different things, as I saw it, the first thing that really piqued my interest is 0%, levels 4 and 5, high school. That's somewhat concerning. It has no impact on kids because it's the first year. But it'll be interesting to see when the results come in the second test on June 3rd. And if it's 0%, then that third year becomes critical. There's a potential major problem there that needs to be looked at. When you look at the grade levels, what I always used to look at is you saw dips. I don't know which one, I'll pick it out. It was a fifth grade. The school was 60-60, and then the fifth grade was 26. Well, that could mean that could be an issue just with that class, that the makeup of the class, the chemistry of the class, but you won't know that until you see the next test the next year. Now, all of a sudden, if that class that had 26 in fifth grade has 26 in sixth grade and everybody else scores are up, well, you might drill in. What's the makeup of the class? What are the students? That's an issue to look at. The other issue is third grade and fourth grade kids most likely could do much better. An example I always use, if some of you are not no one in this room, most likely, well, maybe one, but the situation was when the metric system was pushed. I don't want a metric system. I learned our own other system. I would vote against it because as older we get, it's more difficult to change. So the math in particular, if you're teaching the new math in first, second, third, fourth grade, that's the math they know. And they're going to go real easy with it because that's what they have. You teach this new math to a 7th, 8th grade or a high school kid, their first reaction is, what is it? And the same with your staff. I mean, I feel for math teachers in particular. They've been trained to do one way for so many years, and now all of a sudden they come in. I mean, 7 plus 3 is 10. I see 7 third minus 26. So they were like, stop. How did you get to this 10? And they say this is the new way. Big change. I can't emphasize this enough to everyone in this room. Is not 7 plus. These tests are drilling to you having the ability to think, reason it out, and come to an answer. And it doesn't necessarily, what I've been told, has to be the right answer. What they're looking for is for you to explain how you got that answer. For you, here's the answer. You put together the formula that got there. Those are big changes in there. The big change in language arts, and Christine touched on it, is up to when this started, fiction was the thing. And the state was very clear when this came out 3-4 years ago to prepare us, get your schools to change, and they've got to do at least 60%, if not more, nonfiction. If you stay in your school district with more fiction, your students will fail the language arts, because that whole change in language arts became nonfiction. So, if I was looking at the test in June and it came in, the first thing I would go to, and other people are different, is I would go and say, let me see that math, 0, 0. Tell me that score. 0, 0 again. Now, there's a problem there. Now let's try to see if we can figure it. I wouldn't lose sleep over it again, because I just explained to everybody, this is so late, we don't even have the subgroups. And so the state's putting this thing out, they haven't delivered on what they're supposed to get to. Supposedly, to get us to by June 30th, you start to make those changes. They're going in the right direction. We've had meetings. They're putting together a plan to continue to address this. I do believe that the wise thing to do would be to bring Christine and Rob, maybe a principal, the curriculum committee, to continue to discuss this later in the spring, get more information, and keep you updated that way. But at this point, there's a couple things in there that someone else in the room might think, well, what about happened in this 5th grade? What happened in the 3rd grade? What happened? No, we can't get to all that stuff. We're really not sure where this is going. The teaching and delivery of instruction, whether the scores were good or bad, has to change in both language arts and math. That is a given. If we're teaching the way we taught 10 years ago in math and language arts, we got a problem, because that's not going to match up to the test. And you've got to make that adjustment. But Rob and Christine have told me in their dealings with the staff, it's been very receptive. They're going back and forth, and I get the feeling, just listening to staff, give us what you need. We're all in here to help the kids. So this is the start. I would like to make an exception here, because I don't know anyone in the community, we usually open up to the public, but since we did this, and I told them they could leave immediately, is there anyone in the group here who would like to ask a question? Yes, ma'am.
Like more in the upper grades and the lower grades, do you think that may be part of it? I don't have specific numbers.
So 30 high school and 40.
And I'm fairly confident that our numbers of teaching elementary schools is lower than the experience of high school. Could that have been a factor? Certainly. I know who those students are, but I'll let you into the bottom side when we get new grade math and our more advanced math students are not taking exam, that's going to have an impact on the schools that are taking. That could have been a factor.
Anyone else? I want to thank both of you for the work that you put into this and the meetings that we've had. I've got to know you two very well, and I really do appreciate it that I want to let everyone know they come in, they have the answers, they have the suggestions, and they also have the frustration in trying to figure out where do we go with this. You have two people here that are really on top of this, and we'll continue to move and make sure that the Saddlebrook kids can maximize their abilities and get the proper instruction. So again, thank you for doing this for us tonight to begin the process towards Park. Okay. Our second presentation tonight is presentations by the Saddlebrook Education Foundation about the grants. The people from the Saddlebrook Education Foundation would like to take over. It would be great.
I don't know who's not to, but we began giving grants again, innovative grants to teachers last fall, and last spring. So this fall and then fall for the year coming up, and we're very grateful that everyone put in for these grants. This year, 2016, we have new officers of the foundation, which I'd like to introduce. And also,
we have some numbers to review. So first, Emily Siguratellis is our new president. Georgette Kupo is recording secretary and the treasurer. Kathy Lau is the vice president, and Linda Escobar is the membership and public relations. Dave Garrison is one of the members who want to know. So we're the foundation, and we have some grants we'd like to give out today, some presentations. We're very grateful. We have a budget we'd like to give to everyone, so we're trying to balance it out so we can do as much as we can. So, okay, our first one is to reveal and this is one zero, and this is the cheer for last week. This is Wealth Based Educational Foundation. We have a meeting next Wednesday, 7 o'clock here, if anyone would like to join us. Let's have a because we have part of us, we need members. All the funds we have the walkathon, I know we just announced which classes is a part of the raising most money for our walkathon. All the funds that we raise will be rendered back to the students in different ways. The grants is one way. We're looking to probably be there for a little bit, but we really want to help the students and help the teachers, and that's what we're doing. So anybody, please, there are 5Ks coming up in April. And we're going to the Taste of the Sound again.
Is Taste of the Town's food?
Yes.
I'll participate. The 5K, yeah, that's a push. The Taste of the Town, I want to see what's down here, so I'll give that a shot. Thank you. At first, I really want to congratulate the staff members. I think this is fantastic. You took the time and the energy that you're putting into it, and to the members of the Education Foundation. These type of foundations are the most important thing right now with the funds dwindling in budgets with the cap, the 2% cap, with the state. Ray and I are working on the budget right now, and it's not a pleasant experience in trying to keep everything and trying to work all this out. And so with the Education Foundation being involved in this town, that's fantastic. And the more people that can participate, in the end, this is all for the kids. And that's the thing that we need. So again, I thank the Education Foundation, congratulate the staff. We're now going to go into our board meeting. You're more than welcome to stay, which means you have absolutely nothing to do. And we'll be done quickly. So I'll give about a 4-minute break for you to hit the doors. But if you do like what you're hearing with this, then stay and join us. But thank you again.
Now the motion of meeting to
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Residents are requested to state their names, address, and subject matter in the event it appears the public comment portion of the meeting may exceed 45 minutes. The presiding officer may limit each statement made by a participant to 5 minutes duration. Issues raised by members of the public may or may not be responded to by the board. All comments will be considered and a response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding students and employees of the board are discouraged and will not be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. Members of the public should consider their comments in light of the legal rights of those affected or identified in their comments and be aware that they are legally responsible and liable for their comments. Anyone wishing to be heard on agenda items only? Seeing how there's none, motion to close. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Business administrators report.
Thank you, President Zallarelli. This evening I have December minutes, checks for the month of January, payroll for December, and the financial reports and transfers for the month of November.
Motion to accept business administrators report. Motion. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, sorry.
Mr. Armando?
Yes.
Mr. Booth? Yes, abstaining from check number 49115. Mr. Garrett?
Yes, but abstaining from my check. I don't have the check number in front of me, but that was for the school board's contention. Everyone?
Mr. Gito?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Mrs. Candido?
Yes, but I'll be abstaining from check number 49116.
Mr. Singh?
Yes, but I'll be abstaining from item A. I apologize for missing December meetings. I was swamped with finals.
Did you do well?
On most of them.
Good. We'll do a part
Yes,
review
but
on
I'll
it.
be abstaining from check 49114.
My report.
Student representative report.
Alright. I get two reports, one from middle school, one from the Franklin school. From Franklin school, because students from the whole school were collecting stuffed animals, and we're going to give them to a children's hospital for the Christmas break, which they ended up collecting approximately 60 stuffed animals. And they're also doing a Super Bowl, which is a can drive for the whole school, and the whole purpose for that is to donate all the cans into the Sabbatoon County food pantry, which is a terrific idea. And finally, because the students made bracelets for the whole month to raise money for pancreatic cancer and leukemia. And they actually donated all the profits which they made into a research foundation, and this was pretty much for a student that was diagnosed with leukemia in the previous month. So it was good on their, it was a good idea on their part. As from the middle school and high school, because the midterms are coming from January 26th to the 29th. And so most teachers are preparing for that. Winter sports began on December 23rd, and that's pretty much what's happening. Thank you.
I gave it on Monday. Thank God in 48 hours there's nothing else to report. But you never know. And so with your permission, Madam President, I'll move into the agenda items. then you need a motion. Right.
Is there any discussion on the superintendent's report from Monday?
Oh, I was gonna say, if there's one on now, we got a problem. I didn't say anything. Okay.
Okay, motion to accept superintendent's report.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, under, you need a motion from A1 through A9?
Yes.
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 Yes, but I abstain from A9.
Yes.
You need a motion for B1 and 2?
Motion. Second.
Yes.
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 Need a motion for C1?
Second.
Yes.
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 Need a motion from D1 through D6?
Motion.
Second. Yes.
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 Okay, now, Ray, you gotta help me on this one because you do this a little.
Is there any
On E, you guys open it up to the public. I don't know how you do the motion on E1 first and then open it to the public first. Okay.
I need a motion to open the meeting to the public regarding policies only. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone wishing to be heard on any of the policies? Motion closed. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You need a motion for E1?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
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 Need a motion F1 through F11?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Yes.
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 There's a little follow-up period, there's two items from Monday's agenda that will snap through, they didn't make the agenda for tonight to approve, there's one on negotiations, one to legal. So I'll give them one at a time. The first one on negotiations is the following. Approve the memorandum of agreements number 1 through 3 and salary guide between the Saddlebrook Board of Education and the Saddlebrook Custodial Maintenance Association for the period of July 1, 2015 through June 30, 2018.
Motion to accept. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Armando?
Yes.
Mr. Wolfie? Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mr. Tito?
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Canapino?
Yes.
Mr. Singh?
Yes.
Mrs. Arvell?
Yes.
approve an agreement to settle grievance from employee number 4035 for exhibit 011316B.
Roll call. We need a motion,
Motion.
Second.
discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Armando?
Abstain.
Mr. Booth? Yeah. Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mr. Lucido?
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Canseco?
Yes.
Mr. Singh?
Yes.
Mrs. Azarelli?
Yes.
First, we will be meeting during the month, first meeting after the organization, and we will every work.
Any other reports?
In regards to budget, I'm sure Ray will be sitting down soon to take a look at everything for the budget, right? I mean, whatever the timetable is.
Well, I can move up the distribution budget calendar.
Right.
Schedule mapping out the 2016-17 budget calendar for principals. That's when we'll be meeting with the board. Later, January, early February, we'll start meeting with the board budget committee. We'll go through tentative date of around March 7th, heavy to present at the top the tentative budgets to the county office. Goes to the county office, then we'll come back and on the week of April 25th to May 9th, have a public hearing adoption for the proposal.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Old business? New business?
Actually, well, Sylvia, I have a question for old business. What is the status rate of the Washington School Canada?
October to start at the end of November.
Okay, I just,
They start
they just, okay. Okay, I wasn't sure, I really did not go through my notes and specifically find it.
It was out, I think it was October, checks back, they started actually using the person started last year.
Okay, I just didn't find it in my notes.
Yes. So folks,
Any new business? Motion.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is now open to the public. Anyone wishing to be heard, please step up to the podium. Seeing how there's none, meeting is closed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone. Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all for coming.